Yo, it's Guido coming at you with a tank review, another of the new Christmas tanks. So by now when you see this, you will know that there are three of them. There's the not Pershing, but Sherman FL10 French thing with an autoloader on it based on an M4 chassis. On the Sherman chassis we have this, the GSOR, which is based on the GSOR chassis for the British, which is a light tank in the game. This particular version is a TD, and of course you've got the Basante, which you've already seen a review from me. I'll try to get a review out on the FL10 as soon as possible, but if you're looking at this, then you know those three are in the boxes. As a matter of fact, because of when the NDA lifts, you will probably be buying boxes, and you may have one of these things about now or be planning on getting it today. Whew. Well, fair warning, I did not do well in this tank. I don't have a great opinion of it, but I will try to be as neutral as possible. I think it has a huge upside for a certain gameplay style, and that's going to lean towards TD gameplay styles, but it is going to be very tricky for people to use. You're going to look at the different pieces of it and go, wow, accurate, wow, pretty maneuverable, wow, a turret, wow, an autoloader, holy cow, look at the burst damage. And then it's one of those weird tanks where you put it all together and it's just a little bit less than you would like. It really is. I'll talk about it as we go. And again, that's colored by me doing poorly in it. It does not match my playstyle at all. At all. It is a bushwanking, sit back, burst damage, hide for 40 seconds kind of tank. So if that is not what you're into, it might not be the tank for you, but I can definitely see with some of its strengths there are going to be players who are going to use it to great effect. And it's a bit like the Basante. It is a balanced tank. I really do believe that, except in situations. It's a situationally broken tank. It really is, but overall it is a balanced tank because it's not going to break the game. And we'll talk about that as we go. So we'll do an overview, tech tree considerations, 3D model, comparison stats, my setup, and some gameplay such as it is. Mostly cautionary tales is what I'll be able to give you today. This thing is a development of a TD in the 60s by the British based on the GSOR program, which we've seen light tanks come out of in the game. And it was discontinued after preparation of a set of blueprints and the production of a dummy vehicle. Now, I'm pretty sure Wargaming gave me the dummy vehicle because I didn't do well in that. I did not do well. And you can see it's an oscillating turret. I have one of the sense of direction camos on it right there. Fairly wide body, not too tall. And as compared to their TDs, it's actually, you would think it's tiny, and it feels tiny, but it's not. It's actually fairly decently sized. I mean, obviously the Ferdinand's giant, but you know what? It's really not that much smaller than a Ferdinand. And frankly, it's not that much smaller than a Rheinmetall Scorpion G. A little bit more squat, that's going to help it out with its camo, because height is a big thing that that Wargaming keys in on, apparently, on camo. Like I said, oscillating turret, 3 guys in there. Let's get to that right now. Tech tree considerations on the British. It doesn't match anything, folks. It doesn't. I don't know if you're going to buy this as a trainer for one of your British TDs, because some, especially the lower tier ones, have all kinds of dudes in there, way more than 3. I believe the commander, let's take a look, is the radio operator, as I recall. Yes, and he's a loader as well. And as a matter of fact, there's another loader, and I want to say it's him. Is there 2 loaders, I think? No, he's the driver. Maybe it was the gunner that was also a loader, as I recall. Yeah, so bizarrely, 2 guys are carrying the loading duties. What? Yeah, that's right, I said duty. So if we come down here and we go, wow, commander's busy doing common stuff, commander stuff, radio stuff, and loader stuff. I don't know if you'll ever get down. I mean, that's a lot of skills. Math in public, it's like 27 right there before you'd ever take more loader skills off the commander. I guess technically or historically or looking at the data, they planned on the driver and the loader, or the gunner and the commander, sorry, taking care of loading the clips into the thing. But there you go. This is the traditional autoloader, the French style, basically most autoloaders, where you load all 4 shells that are in the clip, you shoot them all, and then you have to reload all of them. Or you hit C and it reloads whatever you had left over. So it is not the It is not the Italian style auto reloader or the IS-3 reverse auto reloader. How many mechanics do we need for auto loading? I don't know. I do not know. So there you go. Not much else in the tech tree. It's not a great crew trainer. You're only going to train 3. I don't know. Could it be a decent crew trainer for a Manicore and then pay the money to switch it over? You'd have to look at the matchup. It's just something that came to my mind right here. Let's take a really quick look at the 3D model here. There is not a whole lot to note, folks. The turret has a few angles on it. It is decently armored, not great, at about 170, 130. If you get some different angles, you can get sometimes some auto bounce. My armor efficiency is 0.14 in 10 battles, which means I've bounced a couple here and there, and that's really just random bounces. They tended to be off the turret. If I was going to get a bounce, that's where it was. The nice thing about this, when you peek, you are showing very little of the tank. The turret's very squat. There's not much up above the gun. You can see to shoot. So you are going to present a very small profile when you're playing the ridge poking action, and it is a minus 11 degrees gun depression on it, which will help you out. Now that speaks a lot to the way you play it. We'll get to that in just a bit. So not much else to say on the armor profile. Once again, the comparison tool is not set up with the GSOR, so we're just going to take a quick look at the cards right here. Frankly, I didn't really know what to compare it to. You know, normally I'll get the comparison tool and I'll throw a bunch of premiums out there, but let's actually look at the only other auto-loading TD that they have, and one of the best TDs from a premium standpoint that people like, which is the Rheinmetall Scorpion G. This is not a great analog to either one of them. It is a weird little tank. It is kind of a cross between a light, medium, and TD with an autoloader on it. It can do some of all of them, but it's not great at any of them, to be quite honest. So 320 average damage per shot, 226 pen. This is one of the biggest weaknesses of this tank, especially as a premium. The standard round is really crap pen, and that hurts it. That means you're going to be shooting quite a bit of gold, especially if you're up tiering against 9s or 10s. You're going to feel compelled to carry a decent amount of gold, and the gold is expensive, premium / special round, whatever you want to call it. It's about 4,800 as I recall, although it gets into the 300s in pens. We'll take a look at that in a minute. So its average pen as compared to most of the other TDs, whether at tier 8, whether they are tech tree or premium, is kind of garbage, and that does put it a bit on the struggle bus, because one of the things you do not want to do with this tank is either miss or not pen, because the penalty for the reload is 40 odd seconds. All right, right there, 40-31 as mine is set up. Yowza, that's tough. That is tough. Gun traverse is pretty slow at 35. You will notice that. You will notice that. So it's like, if you remember most of the American turreted TDs, how slow the turret moves, a little bit painful, so you will have a bit of trouble tracking things. We'll talk about the soft stats in a minute, because that is an issue as well. Minus 11 gun depression is very nice. So you're going to have a lot of places on the map that you can kind of hang out and go back slope and do the peek-a-boom thing. Aiming time is fast. Dispersion is pretty good. Break. The penalties, the soft stats for turret movement, for hull movement and movement itself, hull shifting and movement, I guess it's rotation and movement, are large. The turret penalty is not very big. If you are completely stationary and you move your turret, you're going to find that dispersion circle is almost not moving, which is really nice. The problem with that is, well, you might go, well, you just sit back and you shoot. That's not really how this game is played. It can be if you're going to bushwank and hang in the back, but not very often are you able to just sit and fire. A lot of times you're poking, coming up and over, shifting your turret around, maybe shifting your hull, doing a lot of little movements to kind of get situated and get shots. The enemy's moving, so a lot of times they're not just sitting in front of you, letting you just shoot 4 rounds downrange. So the reality of it is that when you move around in this thing, the bloom goes crazy, and those numbers are not great. If you can sit, not move your hull, not forward and back, just fire and maybe shift your turret just a little bit, pretty fantastic on the accuracy and aim time. But while those situations are limited, they just are. All right, so if you can put yourself in that situation, that's very good. Damage per minute is low. That is because it can drop. If you consider 320 times 4, 1280, is that right? Math in public, that's a lot. Guys, that is enough to clip out a large number, especially if you get some high rolls, of tier 8s of any kind. Heavies, not so much. Lots of mediums are in there. Lots of TDs are there or below. Light tanks, absolutely. So You hit, you pen, you do damage, you can take people out. I'm going to show you me taking out a Carnarvon AX. Poor guy. Lost the game anyway. But that was the story of this tank. We'll get there. Durability is bizarrely 1200, whereas the giant Scorpion G built on a Panther hull is 1150. And this big old box is only 1000. This is a balancing situation. I think it probably works for this tank based on it being a little more mobile, probably getting around the map a little bit more, but that was pretty funny to me. Hull armor, turret armor, like I said, not great at 152 on the turret, but occasionally can get a bounce and can be, I wouldn't say reliable, but useful against lower tier tanks if you're poking up and over. The specific power is pretty low at 14.51, so its top speed of 60 I never saw. It was low 50s. Downhill, I could get to 60, 62. So the specific power really hurts it in that case. Even the AMX 48 has more specific power, as does the Scorpion. The Scorpion itself is even kind of sluggish to get going, but once it gets going, it's pretty fast. Also, the turn radius of this thing is the Titanic. Like a lot of the British light tanks and say the French light tanks, they just take forever to turn around. They do not turn very well. So anything you can do to help with hull rotation is probably a good idea on this tank. Things like circling, absolutely painful. Absolutely painful. Now, it's a TD. Is it supposed to be circling? Well, I don't know. It's pretty mobile. It's got an autoloader. You may find yourself in those situations, but realize that its ability to do so is not great. View range is okay. Wow, there are so many things you can do now with equipment to change view range based on all the little doodads you can put on, all the skills and things. So it's really, the setup for this tank is wide open. There are multiple different ways to set this up based on how you want to play it. My current setup has a view range of 428, which is not great. I have more of a set, and I'll show it to you later, setup for gun handling, and I'm relying on other people to do the spotting and try to get things done. So there are other ways to do that clearly right there. So that is the comparison. You know, the Scorpion's doing 490, but it's got one shot. Its DPM is in the 2000s, whereas that 2,782. So not a great comparison to the GSOR, but it is a more popular TD. So really, when you're talking about premium TDs, you're talking about two different animals here. Do I want the traditional one-shot TD hang out in the back dropping big bombs on people, or do I want this potential huge burst damage that can be a little bit tricky to employ and get into the game? That's really the choices there. All right, let's go on to so rarely do I come into a review like this with this bad, even after 10 battles. I mean, 40%, 50, 60, it's a plus or minus 1 or 2 battles. It looks really cool if you're 60, it looks kind of crummy if you're 40, but when you're 20%, holy cow. It was tough. It was tough. Like I said, it does not match my play style at all. In order to play this well, I've got to change what I'm doing. I have started to do that. The last couple went better, although I didn't win anymore. I'll show you some gameplay though. 20% victories. I did not survive a battle. Hard to win when you don't survive a battle. So that is something I need to work on. I am clearly getting out into the fight too much. Although to be honest, in a good portion of those, my team's melted. And I'll show you what the example of that. So I'll get 2,000 damage, but 1,000, 1,200 of it will be my last clip, and I'm cornered, and people are just piling in. And that's the only reason I got the damage. I just could not get anything going. These stats don't really match up to a 20% win rate over, say, 100 battles or more, or a more significant sample size, because I'm at 1.74 damage, 1.8 destruction. There's that little armor use. So again, situational turret on occasion, you're going to get lucky, or just those lucky weird angles that people curse after they shoot at you because they bounced a Scorpion off the whole of your GSOR, which happened to me. Maybe it was a Su-120 or 130. I think it was a Scorpiansky. So these don't really match staying at 20%. I would suspect this is probably a 50 to 55. You know, I'm sort of down on myself now because of how poorly I've done, even in just 10 battles. It's been a struggle. Probably more like 55% tank for me, to be honest. If I can shift my gameplay to what matches this, and I don't know if I have the heart to do it because I do not like that kind of gameplay. That's just me though. 2,086 is decent for damage caused to enemy vehicles, but it's not really Look at the turtle. I'm at 2,400. The AT at 2,000. The charioteer also at 2,000. So matching up with some of my other tier 8s, not close to my turtle, which I did pretty well in. What else we got? We got 1,200 damage received. That's pretty good. That's all my hit points. So since I'm 0% battle survived, the average damage I've received is all of my hit points in every battle. That's been, whew. Assistance 182. That speaks to at least trying to be in the back and get things done there. I'm a 1.8 on vehicles destroyed. Now that's a little low, and that's because this thing has a hard time finishing. The reason it has a hard time finishing is if you're one of the last few tanks and you've got multiple other bad guys to take down, it's nice to have the clip because you can delete one guy or maybe two guys, but once you clip out and you're seen or they know where you are, you have 40 seconds before you can get back into the fight, and that takes a lot of forethought. People can do it, players can do it, but I'm just telling you, you need to think really hard about how you're going to employ that clip in this tank based on the really long reload. And if you miss or bounce a couple, you're in big old trouble. Let's jump in and take a quick look at my setup and we'll get to the games. I am using the vents in the bonus slot. I have a GLD and I'm running the rotation mechanism, all in an effort to help out with the gun handling in all the different situations you may have moving around. You know, the IRD will help you, IRM will help you while you're moving and shifting and things. The gun laying as you're just sitting there should help you out as in a TD aspect. There's no vert stab, by the way, guys. No vert stab, my friends. You cannot do that with this. Perhaps improved aiming potentially in there. I did jump into a test room with Casual Boop, so we looked around at this. He tried the turbocharger. Didn't seem to really help it too much. I worked around with the coated optics based on the good camouflage, which mine is sitting at 36, and that's something I didn't mention, by the way. Sort of going back to the comparison, it does have pretty darn good camo. There are better ones, Sturvs, Udes, things like that. But for something with a turret that's a little bit more flexible than, say, a Sturv or a casemate, it actually has really nice camouflage there. So you could add potentially coated optics or maybe even binoculars, potentially a camo net to camo up even more. But I think coated optics are definitely an option potentially if you want to start working on a little longer view range and do some more spotting for yourself, and that's going to be completely to taste. I ran 24 regular rounds. I brought 12 of the APCR. I just wanted to touch on that real quick because the pen is 321, which is certainly doable for a tier 8. It's just that the standard pen is so atrocious, and that's going to really just make people want to shoot APCR, and that crushes, especially in autoloader, it crushes your potential for making funds, all right, for making credits. A miss, a bounce just slays you. And I think with an autoloader, you are more tempted to take those kind of boom, 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 risky shots. At least I know I am. And I don't think I made a whole lot of credits with this tank. And if you're going to run just armor piercing with only 226 in a TD where you have to make shots count, it's that kind of devil's deal, man. That's a hard one, and you're going to have to just decide how to do it yourself. I don't think I would carry this much gold if I was trying to make credits with it. I'm just trying to do damage, to be quite honest. Holy cow. All right, so the rest of my setup is large kits. I did run food. I did not run fire extinguisher. In 10 games, I didn't get lit on fire, although in the training room with Casual, he actually lit me on fire, I think, on his first hit. So there you go. And I'm running a directive aim tuning. There's a lot of options on directives based on the way you're setting up your tank, whether it's camo or vision, or whether it's gun handling kind of stuff to do in there. But I think I would definitely recommend food. But again, it's, do you have some in your garage? Are you willing to spend 20,000 a game? Without the food, I think it takes a big hit to the gun handling. And again, the old Faustian bargain right there for you. And that is my setup. So let's take a look at some examples of gameplay. This was my very first game. If you remember, I went 2-8. I actually won my first game, and from there went 1-9. And I think the other win was like a 600 damage win that the team just came through. So we're here on Serene Coast, and my first game, so I'm looking at this, I'm actually running a camo net on this particular game. My initial setup was a little bit more defensive, and then I kept getting maps where I wasn't able to really do a whole bunch of that. This is a decent spot for it, but of course the enemy team has to be, what's the word I'm looking for? They have to cooperate, right? They have to be cooperative. And if they don't continually come over the edge there, then this little lovely spot is not going to do anything, is it? All of a sudden, all my lights and mediums are up there taking these guys on, and I'm thinking, well, now I wish I was up there. The problem is, if you initially commit to going up there, and they bring 7 or 8 tanks up there as well with gun depression, well, you're going to get shredded. You can drop your 4 shots, but you got 40 seconds to wait. So now I'm finally pushing up. We have a problem down on the peninsula. That is not going to be good down there, but I'm going to bring the clip up here and see what I can do to start helping out the guys here. So I've already dabbed 2. I've gone to try-hard mode. I'm going to come up here. I'm going to try to take on the T-28 or maybe something else. I was hoping that with the -11, I'd be able to find a spot right here without getting shot from below. And now I'm just really exposing. I'm like, oh, look at all these people. We'll shoot him, and nope, we missed. There's an example. See how big the dispersion is? I'm going to zoom in. Okay, that's decently accurate. But I was moving forward and kind of moving the hole and the turret at the same time, so that was a pretty big dispersion. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit C. And now we're in for the long winter reload right here, 40-something seconds. I really wish that the replays would show that. It's not a perfect system. You know, Wargaming, if any of you guys are watching this, could you please take the replay system and put it into the client, much like other games have, where you can just jump into a replay from the client and you don't have to shut your client down, and you don't get these weird artifacts where crap doesn't work. But look how long that wait is. I want to get in here and take out this T-28. It just took forever, so I'm just timing the move in for my reload. Almost perfect. Oh boy, it didn't matter. All right, so there's that bounce from the C-130 I talked about earlier. Poor guy. I'm glad I didn't take it. All right, so the thing you're going to be tempted to do with this tank in situations like this is press an advantage. Now, I have a bunch of guys back here, snipers. I was really hoping they might come with me, but this is an overextension and too early. Why? Because this is bad back here over on the peninsula, and there's still guys around the middle, and there's 3 dudes at least in here, and I'm sort of just pushing in with my little auto-loading TD. And while it's going to be lots of fun to maybe get some shots on these dudes, that's actually USSR Forever over there. I don't know if it's the original one or not. But anyway, pushing on in here, and I'm thinking, ooh, now I really feel like I'm the big auto-loading mean guy, and I'm going to come in here and punch some face. Well, look, I got no support. None of them came. They're getting artied. This situation back here is going from bad to worse, and just an absolute terrible decision on my part to push in. But we'll just show you what it can do. Come in here with our lovely 4 shots at 320 apiece, and we'll go boop, and then we'll go boop, and then we'll go boop, and then uh-oh. Well, that was fun. Unfortunately, we left him on 100, and check it out. Here comes one of the vultures, and my buddies are nowhere near, and it's pretty much over. So I've dropped 1508, 235 assists, and I'm going to get taken down because I'm completely overextended, and there's nothing I can do against this M41. Just maybe try to get the front armor to it, and it's over. We end up winning that somehow. I don't know how. Better move would have been to fall back or maybe stay on the hill and see if we can't work on these guys down here. Yes, I got rid of the arty and killed some guys off and did some damage, but I'm out of the game, so I have no more votes for this game, right? I voted early. I tried to vote often, but it just did not work out for me. It worked out for the team. So I'm not saying that move helped the team. I just wanted to show you, some of the strengths and weaknesses. Yes, you will be tempted to go, and just chuck those 4 320 alpha shots down range. But you got, unless you have some place to go or protection, which I did not, then bad things are going to happen. All right. So that's the first game. So like I mentioned, one of the problems with this tank is once you get into situations like this, sometimes it's just slop damage and it makes it look better. I'm only at 659. I'm shooting these guys. I'm going to back out. I'm going to reload. We'll just speed this up. You can see it's a complete romple stomp. I didn't show you the whole thing. A T-28 came across the middle over there. He's still alive for the moment, but I think he actually dies, maybe? No. I thought he died. Anyway, he didn't die, did he? No. We've killed the whole 2 tanks. It's 2 to 14. So I'm at 659, but I've got that clip. And I think what people are going to find on this in a lot of cases is you're going to be able to do a lot of damage because they're going to end up in situations like this one right here where you get the clip end game. Just kind of surprised the Scorpion didn't shoot me. Look at that. Another weird bounce off the turret. The LTTB is wondering if I'm reloaded. He's about to find out that I am, and he says, oh, he's going to try to shoot the Scorpion. 1, 2, 3. We're going to get one more on him. 4. And all of a sudden we're at 1809, which is kind of a respectable-ish tier 8 damage, but in a just useless, completely, absolutely useless damage. As a matter of fact, probably lost me money because well, that was probably a push because they all hit and did damage. But I used the gold ammo or the special / premium ammo to do that, right? So, yes, I got some more damage. Looks good on the stats, but holy cow. And I just found myself, I'll give you a couple examples here in just a second, but I just found myself in this situation with this tank. I'd go to a TD area or a support area. The team would start to collapse. I can't get the gun into the game because everything's just collapsing inward, and then you're just like, well, okay. I'll take the damage I can get, and that's not necessarily a problem of just this tank. It's just that if you have issues getting damage early, say you miss a couple or bounce a couple with the 40-second reload, by the time you're back into the game, a lot of stuff can happen to your team in 40 seconds. Whereas if you had a TD that you could one-shot where you could continue to affect the game and hit people and keep heads down, all that stuff, things might go a little bit different. All right. Give you a couple more. I'm just going to show you this one because it gives a pretty good idea of the dispersion of the gun. So we got a Cromwell that's going to show up here in just a second that I'll take on. Get my reload on. You can see we're already 2 minutes into the game, and we've lost a couple tanks. There's nothing going on my side, so I'm basically trying to hold it with an auto loader. This is not a great idea, but what are you going to do? Am I going to run all the way down here and start fighting on the peninsula? Should I fall back and hang out at the cap? Probably, but bad situation. So anyway, we're going to come in here. I know there was a guy spotting me, so watch the dispersion. I'm going to go ahead and slow it down. See how big that dispersion is? That's pretty cool. We'll just speed up a little bit. And every time I shift, boom, booms. It just blooms. Look at that. As I move, it just... So maybe a better idea just to stand in and bam, bam, bam. Hopefully with a reasonable expectation that a Cromwell B bounces or misses. Possibly. I think it shows that the breathing of the dispersion circle can get pretty dang big with this thing. So we'll go ahead and get up here. Now this ends up being useless damage. I'm just going to timestamp forward. The team just starts losing right and left. I try to push with these guys. It doesn't go well. Now I'm on a reload. What I don't notice is that until way too late that I'm reloading 2 shells and not the AP section, just based on the way I've done my reloads. Look how long the reload is. The team is losing by miles, and I'm just hoping I can get a shell reloaded as we lose. I'm just going to push forward and try to get some off of this guy. Boom, we get one. And I think I get one more. There we go. Nice little low roll at 297. And we die with 1,774. Another Rompel Stomp at 14. I don't know what it comes out to, but it's not very many more. If we kill any more, I don't know. Probably not. So basically a 15-4 battle. All right, more examples. This is fun. All right, for this little one, we're going to show you what you kind of live for with this tank. You see that guy? I'm not quite ready. And then the Carnarvon AX is coming up. And I'm going to be able to do the bush snipe, the bush wanking action here. Got the dark bush. There we go. I see what he is doing. Okay, I don't want him to see me, so we'll back out. We'll make it dark, and we're going to go for the sprockets. We hit him once. We get a crit. We hit him again. Hit him again. We break the track. Nobody can see me shooting him, so that's 2 down range. We track him again, and we have 1 more shot. And boom, down goes the Carnarvon. So we've done a little over 1,000. The hit points that he had left, I think even had he had most of his hit points, we probably would have taken him out right there. And that's the shutdown capability of the 4-clip with a 320 alpha. How often have I been able to make that happen? How often will you? I don't know. It's a lot of fun when it happens, and that's what it can do. But you got to really work hard to put yourself in that position. And we lost this game too. All right, last but not least, we'll give you a little bit of a view of what it can do. Where I have a decent game, we end up losing, unfortunately. But I'm able to play this a little bit aggressively. You know, a map like this, what do you do with a tank like this? Do you go into town and try to support? Could do. You can be that 4-shot guy just ready to jump out and punish people. But I'm not getting a lot of help. Plus, everyone's sort of camping along the south side for the moment. And this is pretty standard on Lakeville. Everyone wants to see those shots across the road over there. We do have a bat chat on the road, so maybe he'll be able to light some stuff. He did see the Barask, and then they send a pretty good force into the valley. Now I could go to valley as well and support, but there is an artillery. This thing does not do very well with artillery. What do you do? Well, I decided to go over here, and I'm going to have to wait until my heavier tanks get past me. Another option is to, on this particular map, rush forward into the town and try to drop a few shots into unsuspecting guys who get there pretty quickly, because you are relatively fast. But I'm just going to be a little bit more careful. So we'll come through here. Eventually the Type 4 and the T-95 come in, but we really don't get a whole lot in the town. So I am going to try to help the town. I don't really want to move up with the M6 super mutant Pershing guy there. Not a Pershing, but the super mutant guy. Because hold down is not this thing's really forte on this kind of map. Especially with the tanks that are going on down there. It's very channelized right there, so you're going to get hit, plus there's the artillery. So again, I'm going to hang out in town here, see what I can do. Our bat chat moving around. The IS-3 goes in. Now, had I been up there to support him, I might have been able to sneak some shots on people, but he's kind of alone and unafraid, and I don't have time to really help a guy who's just going to die that fast. That's just pretty bad. It takes a while to zoom in, but we get that. Type 4 is moving up, and pretty quickly I'll notice the T-95 moves by, and still it's just the three of us. If we had the Carnarvon and maybe the AMX and the Progetto up here, could do some work. But we're 3 tanks down already, folks. We lost a Barask with 12T, the guy has 3. And now I'm down to 3 rounds. And this is one of the things that's really tricky with this tank. I took 1 shot on the guy on the road, and now I'm down to 3, and I'd love to have 4, but it's a 40-second reload. So when do you do that? It's very tricky. The old C button can be very tricky with this tank on when you do it. And all of a sudden we get the Barask in here, and this is a bummer. I get a hit on this guy, and I don't hit him, but he actually spins his... Wow. Holy cow. And I take the hit. Now I'm down to 2, so do I hit C? Do I try to get in there and help these guys? My guys are taking hits. There's going to be guys to shoot here, so I'll just spin around. There's that really slow hull traverse. And I come down here and maybe try to get a shot on the mill, but unfortunately he's in the road right there. T-95 sort of looking at him. And I'd like to sneak out while the 703 is not looking, so I'm looking with my camera angles to see what he was doing with his turret. And when I saw his turret turning, what he's doing here is he's trying to back up, but he's backing up without locking his turret forward, which means that nice slow turret is not pointing at me and is going to allow me to get 2 shots. So there we go, I get a couple more. And now, obviously forced reload because I've taken all 4 of my shots. I want to get away from the Hawk 30 right there, and now I'm cooling my heels. Right, this fighting's matured. It's ongoing. It'd be really nice to have a shot to get in there and start whittling guys away with it, but I just don't. I have to wait 40 seconds. 40 seconds. I don't know how the Type 4 lost so many hit points, but there's a couple TDs, or at least 1 TD down there. The AMX CDA 105. Here comes the T-55A. I can't just love to pop out and take him down, but I gotta wait for my reload. Just about there. There we go. I'll come out just as I'm reloading. We'll hit him. And I try to back out, and I still get hit. 396 by the AMX, who is hanging out back there, somehow in a bush, which I'm not really sure how you can do that in that particular position. It might be that my spotting point wasn't far enough. Probably my spotting point wasn't far enough east, and he was able to see me based on the light from the T-55, but I couldn't see him. In fact, there he is right there. I'll just go ahead and sneak one in there. 703, a 122, take some hits. I'm thinking about maybe going in there. I have 2 shots. Pretty sure I don't actually have a shot on it. Yeah, there's probably buildings in the way. I'm going to go ahead and just take these 2 shots. Kind of a waste. Actually, I only took 1. And then I hit reload. I hit reload, and I'm down for another 40 seconds. I've got only 1,000 damage, and we're losing pretty handily right now. 6-9. We completely lost the valley. And I'm cooling my heels. So it's really nice that you can jump out and drop that burst. But the in-between part is very painful. The Barask is an interesting kind of example, or almost analog to some extent, but in terms of it has 2 shots and reloads really quickly. That's almost more flexible and deadly than having 4 shots and reloading in 40 seconds based on the way this game is played. He's just down for a lot less time. He's got a decent burst for killing near-deads off. Probably should have looked for a shot on that Barask right there, because he's actually going to be a problem later on. Killing him right here would have been absolutely fantastic for me. but we end up leaving him alive, and that's going to cost me later on. The 100-01, we've got enough pen to shoot him right there. That's good. Centurion, now we've got the AMX-30 up there. Or the Hawk 30, sorry. Trying to find a shot on him. We'll just back out. Let that zoom in. We'll take a look and see if we can't kill him off. There we go. There's the Barask again. I mean, maybe another chance to run down there and get him. Probably should have charged down there and helped out. I mean, it's really going to end up costing me. I'm going to hit C, go back to the reload, trying to manage that clip as good as possible, as well as possible. I'm heading in here to try to help the T95. So we've got a 6x6 and T95. Just going to turtle up here because of the arty. And now I'm backing up the 5041. What I should have done is gone straight into town and tried to help these guys, but I didn't know that would happen. That surprised me a little bit, but it's a full hit point Sturv. It looks like he's going to get in, get set up, and at least get the T95 spotted. There you go. He actually killed him. So came running around the corner, went into siege mode, and was able to put a shot probably into the back, I'd imagine, or pixel snipe one of the hatches of the T95. The 6x6 does a pretty nice job getting in there and hurting him, but it isn't able to kill him. So we've got a pretty low hit point Sturv. Now I'm coming in here, and I'm thinking, all right, I've got 4 shells, 3 into the Sturv, and 1 for the Barask. Should be good, right? I've got 478. Provided I don't take a hit from the Sturv, and I don't get wrecked by the arty, I should be able to kill both of them. That's a lot of ifs. And I sort of boofed myself by being a little bit over exuberant, because I come in here and I whiffed the first shot, and it went behind him. And that is very unfortunate, because it requires 3 shots to kill him. I get 2. He tries to poke in here. I get him dead, but I'm out of bullets, right? Out of shots, out of rounds. There's nothing I can do against the Barask, and the Barask is probably reloaded. In any event, we're down to 1 tank. Being able to win against all of this is going to be very difficult. I probably, in hindsight from here, would have liked if I just turned around and maybe ran that way or ran down this road, or maybe try to do some ring around the rosy. Don't stay in the same place and let the Barask come at me, because he's just going to come right around this corner. There's nothing I can do to stop him. I tried to ram him. He gets me once, so that's the 1 hit I could have taken. I don't know, maybe he misses, maybe he bounces. We don't quite get there. It doesn't matter. And we're dead. So we got 2,451. Couple mistakes in there, but you get the idea, I think, from this, that the reload management on this tank is going to be very, very tricky. Very tricky, especially when you get down to endgame. This is why I say this doesn't really have a lot of great endgame carry potential, at least not flexibility-wise. Yes, it can clip people out. So if you've got the hit points to take a hit and you run in a 1v1, you can probably take them down, right? Especially if they're wounded. Maybe even 2 tanks take them down, like I tried to do right there. But if you miss or bounce, or there's more than a couple tanks with enough hit points, you're in a lot of trouble. Now, you can say you would be with any tank, but I think this one, just the flexibility of not being able to continually fight, especially once you run out of your rounds, really hurts this dude with 40-second reload. So there you go. Let's wrap this up. Well, all right, friends. If you get the GSOR, I hope you have a good time with it. I know I was a bit down on it, didn't do so good. It is, I'm going to be honest, it's not an easy tank to do well in. I mean, occasionally you're going to find that game where you're just allowed to absolutely obliterate things one after another and sit around for 40 seconds and reload. Unfortunately, you get into those turbo games where things are just happening so fast. Being out of the fight 40 seconds just really hampers you and your team's ability to do anything. Consider the position of being top tier. And that first clip, you miss a few. And all of a sudden, you're in 40 seconds, and the game is 2 minutes old, and you've seen it. The turbo game is already on, and your team is falling, and you're 40 seconds out of it not being able to do anything. That can be a big, big problem. So it requires a lot of care to do well in it. Do not expect to be just running around like a I don't know, a super ninja TD light tank, medium tank. Because while it does a lot of that stuff and can do a lot of that stuff, I'll be honest with you, I think the sum of the parts is worse than the parts in this case, to be quite honest. There you go. There's multiple ways to set it up. I think it's definitely worth getting out of the boxes. Oh, look, a bounty has been received. Great. It's definitely worth taking a shot at it with the boxes. Remember, for the boxes, you should have information on those today. I think you can even buy them today as you're watching this. Remember that, if you're buying the boxes to get this tank, that may be the wrong mindset. I think it's probably a better mindset to say, let me get some really good gold value in the boxes, and then if one of these things pops, that will be great. I would be sure that this and the Basante and the FL10 for that matter will likely be on sale at some point later on in the year. So if you don't get it in a box, I would not be surprised if you have some kind of availability to get it later. Strange little tank, guys. Strange. It can be fun for sure. It's very quirky. I think the last two tanks, in fact, I'm going to add the FL10 on top of that as well. The last three tanks that they've released for Christmas are all very quirky. They really are. They're something a little bit different, and in that respect, that's very good because that adds a little flavor, changes maybe the play style just a little bit there, but be careful with this one especially because it requires a lot of care and handling. Let me just put it that way. That's all I've got for my review of the GSOR 1008 Tier 8 British Premium TD that will be in the Christmas boxes. And right now we're looking at the Not Christmas garage, and by the time you're watching this video, more than likely you've already loaded into your Christmas garage, and we are off to the races for Christmas. So happy holidays, everybody. We will see ya.